Well, it is once again time for weather with Nebraska Extension Ag Climatologist and Market Journal Chief Meteorologist Al Dutcher. Al, I asked you last week about snow, and that's exactly what we saw here in eastern Nebraska. How are things looking, though, as we turn to the week ahead, which includes Thanksgiving?
Well, Bryce, we did see a little bit of light snowfall across eastern Nebraska with that cold air and the successive waves that were pushing that cold air into the state. Accumulations were fairly light. I think the greatest I've seen was 2.5 inches in portions of southeast Nebraska, but for most locations, a trace to a half inch was probably on the higher end of the totals for most locations in eastern Nebraska. Western Nebraska, nothing in the way of any significant moisture, so we're going to wait another week for some potential precipitation, unfortunately. More importantly, this cold air that has arrived is going to finally scour out as it moves toward the east. That's going to create a pretty significant lake effect event for the Great Lakes region, particularly upper Michigan, and of course eastern New York, or western New York, particularly downstream of Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, where 2 to 5 foot of snowfall accumulated for the entire event is expected. For us, the models have changed dramatically over the last couple of days, and so instead of seeing our several short waves moving to the north of us during the holiday weekend and keeping us fairly warm and dry, we're looking at a more potent storm system potentially developing and moving into the southern plains, and from there, if it moves far enough northward, it will impact Nebraska. I don't have a lot of confidence in this forecast, but I just want to let you know to pay attention to the weather because these dramatic changes over the last couple of days makes for a very uncertain forecast. So as we look at the upper air model, we have it up, that big trough responsible for cold air starting to shift toward the east. The coolest conditions today will be in the northeast Nebraska, where we were looking at the 28 to 32 degree mark, and in the southeast, probably the mid-30s, and as you get into southwestern Nebraska, probably the low 40s. As we go into tomorrow, of course, the wave moves a little farther toward the east coast. That allows a little bit warmer weather to come into our region as we get rid of that cold air. So bump up our temperatures about 5 degrees over today, and we should hit the mark. We do have a piece of energy moving through the southern stream. Right now, that's not expected to impact Nebraska as we go into Monday. The system will move across Texas. An even weaker system with nothing in the way of any moisture to work with will move across the Dakotas, just giving a little bit of flurry activity. Once again, we're going to bump our temperatures up another 5 degrees or so. So we'll be looking at mid-40s to upper 40s southwest, and we'll be pushing the upper 30s to low 40s across the northeast. Now, as we get into the day on Tuesday, this little piece of energy across the southern plains moves into the Ohio River Valley, and then we turn our attention to a big trough across the Pacific Northwest that's expected to rapidly move into the southern plains. So for us, kind of in a southwest zonal flow, temperatures will again be fairly nice. We should see 40s statewide with potentially lower 50s possible across extreme southwestern Nebraska. Okay, the day before Thanksgiving, this trough now makes it into the lower Great Basin, and then it will rapidly move toward the east-northeast. So we're going to see an increase in cloud cover, but we still should see temperatures primarily in the 40s statewide. As we get into Thanksgiving Day, we'll see that upper air low eject out into the southern plains. Surface moisture will bring that Gulf moisture up east of the low pressure system and then wrap it around. So potentially we'll see some accumulating snowfall across the state, and if this moves more northeast, then it'll be much more significant accumulations. As we get past Thanksgiving Day, we start to see the trough moving into the central eastern corn belt. We see ridging starting to develop across the western United States and pushing into our region, so we will cool down a little bit. We don't have the big polar outbreak coming in, but we will definitely start to see a warming trend as we go into the very final days of November and into December. Well above normal temperatures, depicted by the 2 to 4 week forecast, takes us from Thanksgiving to basically the first 12 days of December, above normal temperatures for our region, and with that region placed below normal precipitation.